I'm really excited to close out today's session to talk about the future of cloud marketplaces. Like Juliet said, I've been at AWS for 12 years, and I've had the privilege of watching the growth of cloud marketplaces. They didn't exist 12 years ago. The AWS marketplace was the first cloud marketplace, and it really ushered in a whole new era of procuring IT solutions for the cloud. A lot has changed, but one thing is clear is that the growth has been incredible. The analyst firm Canalys predicts that by 2028, cloud marketplace spend, so total contract value through cloud marketplaces, will grow to $85 billion. And I actually think that's a really conservative estimate. The growth that we're seeing across the cloud marketplace segment is actually growing faster than cloud itself. And so I guess the real question is why? What is driving all of this growth? Like, why are customers moving to cloud marketplaces for their procurement? And it's not just procurement of software. Why are they buying software, data, and increasingly consulting services, professional services through the cloud? What is changing? What are some of the customer pressures that are causing this sort of revolution and this big growth? If we take a step back and we look at the landscape of customers, there's a few macro trends that are happening. And the first is that the pace of innovation is increasing. And that sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. Think of right now. Every company is struggling a lot of the time to find a Gen AI strategy, to really refine and to find the right workloads to move into production for AI ML. And if you're going through this transformation as a company, you need quick access to the latest technology. You're maybe experimenting with which AI machine learning model, which foundational model to use, small language models, large language models, adjacent technologies like vector databases. You need data to train your models. All of this requires discovery, and then you need to find the solution you want and then quickly get it through the procurement pipeline to your developers so they can actually experiment. And you need to move quickly. There's a leadership principle that we use at Amazon, and it's called bias for action. And I love this one because it says speed matters in business. And it's true. If you don't move quickly in this current business climate and in this current technology climate, you die. And so keeping up with the pace of innovation is really driving a revolution across procurement, including but not limited to IT solution procurement. Another interesting thing is that we're seeing more buyers come to the cloud in general. There are traditional cloud personas who are buying security and data and analytics solutions, what we generally call infrastructure solutions for the cloud. But more and more, you would have laughed me off stage if I told you 5 years ago that people were going to run their core ERP in the cloud, but it's happening now. People are buying their ITSM and running it in the cloud. They're buying their CRM and they're running it in the cloud. The core software that runs business increasingly is running in the cloud, and that's bringing a whole new type of buyer. We're seeing line of business buyers come to the cloud. We're seeing CFOs. Cloud spend is so big that CFOs are paying attention to purchases, not just of cloud services, but of third-party solutions running in the cloud. Obviously CIOs and CISOs, but whole new cohorts, whole new personas, and whole new industries are now moving to the cloud. Retail, CPG, commerce is really just now starting to move to the cloud in a really big way. Ad tech, low latency ad tech solutions, they didn't really work in the cloud 10 years ago. Now they do. Broadcast video. I used to work at the Associated Press in broadcast video, and again, 10 years ago, if I said that you would watch the Bayern Munich game on streaming linear video powered by the cloud, you would have laughed. But that's how all linear video and live video is powered today in the cloud. And again, that brings a whole industry-specific media and entertainment cohort of buyers. So how are we catering to those buyers? With all these new buyers, all these solutions, all these verticals, it means more products. You need to buy more software, you need to buy more services, you need to buy more data. So there's just a lot more. So that leads to reinforce some of the challenges that all of you know better than I do, that have been around for as long as procurement has been around. And that's when you buy something or you're trying to buy something, it often takes too long to find what you need, and then it needs to move through legal approvals and security approvals and all these stages. It takes too long before the person who actually needs the solution to be able to use the solution. It also creates nightmares for your CFO and nightmares for procurement teams. If you have all of these licenses, all of these purchases happening, you lose visibility, you lose control. With all of this growth, how do you maintain that visibility? And how do you control it in the right way? Maybe you have regulatory constraints. I heard MSK talking before about their regulatory requirements. Maybe you have budgetary constraints. How do you govern and stay secure with this incredible growth that we're seeing? And how do you keep costs down? As we move from contract-based to consumption-based or subscriptions, how do you temper runaway costs, for example? How do you control costs? These are age-old problems that are amplified in this age that we live in. So again, if we take a step back and we look at the buyer journey, this type of a diagram will be really familiar to anyone who works in procurement in any form. But typical procurement cycles, in the worst case, can take months. Finding what you need, especially with all these new vendors, how do you find what you need quickly? Your requirements may be unclear. You go back and forth between business and product owners and the developers. There's a lot of back and forth. Then it's the compliance team comes in and says, no. And you need to work through compliance and figure out, are you SOC 2 compliant? Are you PCI DSS level 1 compliant for my new retail app? Where's the attestation that I can show to my auditor? There's a whole complex set of reviews around risk management, and then the CISO says, I need to review. There's a lack of trust between all the stakeholders. Again, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know how this works. The bottom line is it's taking too long. And it's because it takes too long, and because people have all these concerns that they are turning to cloud marketplaces. And oftentimes I get a lot of skepticism. People say, well, cloud marketplace isn't magic. Procurement is procurement. It's not going to magically fix these things that you showed on the previous slide. But what we're finding with data and with experience at scale at AWS and other cloud providers is that cloud marketplaces do actually help. They make it easier to find what you need because you have consolidated catalogs. They lead to faster procurement because they use standard contracts and there's APIs and tie-ins to procurement systems so that the whole procurement workflow moves faster. You can be more secure and actually operate more quickly and yet still govern things better by using cloud marketplaces, and I'll explain why in a second. And you can better monitor your ongoing risk. So cloud marketplaces actually help at all stages to solve these pretty classic procurement problems, but are amplified by the speed at which we're moving in the cloud these days. And I always say, don't believe Matt, believe the numbers. And these numbers are from Forrester, another analyst firm, and they're actually old. It's gotten better since then. This is from 2022. 75% reduction in onboarding effort. Anyone here knows that if you consolidate your invoicing and consolidate your vendors, you speed up onboarding time. 66% time savings due to procurement efficiencies. We see huge improvements around things like standard contracting, for example. And the one that often matters most, especially to the CFO, is a 10% reduction in licensing costs. Often people realize these reductions just through visibility alone. If you actually know what you're using, all of the seats in use, all of the licenses, you can dramatically reduce the spend. You can negotiate better leverage, you can negotiate better deals, you can shut down what's not being used, you can save money. So, if that sounds like magic, let's talk about how in real terms. So how are we realizing these benefits across those pillars? The first is speed. And I said that Amazon has that leadership principle, bias for action, that speed matters in business. So how are we actually speeding things up in IT solution procurement with cloud marketplaces? The first is discovery. I was in a procurement user group just yesterday with a whole bunch of customers, and these are senior procurement people from very, very large companies. And what was the number one answer that they gave when we said, how do you do sort of risk assessment and vendor assessment? Google search. That was their number one answer. It's a bit like people say spreadsheet when they say, how do you actually track costs? It's true. They're spending a ton of time on discovery. Who is this vendor? Are they financially sound? Who are the competitors in this space so I can build an RFP? All of this discovery. What solution should I use in the first place? How are most people doing that today? Organic human-based search. We can do better. So this is where generative AI comes in, and semantic search and recommendations. So what cloud marketplaces are starting to introduce is intelligent recommendations based on huge amounts of data. So they can say, hey, I notice you're using X data in this way. Maybe you can benefit from this solution. Hey, you're using this generative AI model. Maybe you need a vector database and this particular data warehouse so you can train and build a RAG to make that model more useful. Suddenly, recommendations are better. The technology for search and discovery is way better than it was even a couple years ago. You can make more informed decisions if you have more data, of course. And the thing I think that people don't realize with cloud marketplaces that's maybe one of the biggest speed benefits is faster contracting and legal negotiation. Things like redlining, the now prevalent use of standard contracts. Even if you have 10 addendums, if you're using a standard contract, it moves a lot faster. Your chief counsel, your legal team says, hey, I know this contract. This is the AWS Marketplace contract. You're good. We don't need to redline this. We only need to redline the addendums. You just saved 5 to 10 weeks right there. And then, of course, streamlined deployment. It blows my mind when you look at the numbers, the amount of software that people try or buy that never gets used. It never gets used because it's not configured. It sits on the shelf, shelfware. I mean, I see some people laughing because it's true, right? It's true. I saw a statistic from a large company that 60% of all the software that they bought never gets used or gets used once and then never again. That's insane. That is waste. It's waste of productivity, it's waste of money. So if you can deploy that solution and configure that solution post-procurement so that it's useful on day one, it's a form of efficiency and a form of cost savings for everyone. Again, don't believe Matt, believe the customers and believe the research. Our customer here in the Netherlands, Just Eat, we were just there yesterday, they're a great customer, and they're using Wiz, who you just heard from on stage. They are realizing these speed benefits by using cloud marketplaces. The second that I'll touch on is risk. Now, what's the relationship between risk and governance and cloud marketplaces? Well, one big thing is that visibility. This statistic from Forrester, I believe, 60% of data and 45% of cloud software is routed outside of procurement. When you lose visibility, it's hard to control. It's hard to control what you don't see, what you don't know about. So visibility about what software is being purchased, who's using it, how they're using it, how it's configured, this is key to reducing risk. So visibility is key. But also, does the software that is being purchased comply with my corporate policies? Does it comply with my regulatory requirements? Does it comply with my security requirements? Increasingly, cloud marketplaces give you tools to do that evaluation. I mentioned SOC 2 earlier. What if you have a requirement that things must be SOC 2? Or you must buy through a tier 1 diverse company, women-owned business, black-owned business, or you must buy something that adheres to your sustainability requirements, or you must buy something that encrypts everything at rest. These are common requirements. Well, what if you could use a cloud marketplace to filter against those criteria, to allow your end users to filter against that criteria before it gets to procurement? Well, you can. You can do that today in cloud marketplaces. So that's not the future, that's now. But for most procurement teams, that's the future. You can get there quickly. Remember Log4j? Anyone who's in IT will shiver. This was a security incident a few years ago, and there were other ones like it, where all of a sudden you get a memo and you needed to patch and upgrade every single piece of software you ever bought. Easy, right? And of course, you know where all your software is, so no problem. If you're laughing, it's because you lived it. And if you don't know where your software is deployed, if you don't know what version it's on, if you don't know how to quickly redeploy the software, you can't respond to security vulnerabilities. But guess what? Our customers on AWS Marketplace were able to respond almost immediately because we have relationships with all of our vendors, we have leverage with those vendors, and we worked with those vendors to patch their software and then made that software automatically available on the marketplace, and our customers could redeploy new patch software within hours in some cases and days in worst case. Customers using marketplaces for procurement could respond to risk faster. The former CISO of FINRA, John Brady, he's retired now, he's out golfing. He got on stage a few years ago and he said that I can be more secure in the cloud. And that was a huge watershed moment for the industry because people are like, oh man, FINRA, this organization that regulates 6 billion stock trades in the United States, the CISO is saying that they can be more secure in the cloud. Now what we're hearing from chief procurement officers is they can be even more secure by using cloud marketplaces. Because not only can they increase the security of their core workloads running on the cloud, but they can increase their ability to respond to incidents by using cloud marketplaces. Financial risk you can mitigate through visibility, governance risk, compliance risk, security risk, all risks can go down. Of course, Being able to respond to that risk requires visibility. And when you use cloud marketplaces and when you consolidate your procurement for IT solutions through a cloud marketplace, you get great data. Just yesterday, in my service, AWS Marketplace, we launched Organization View of Agreements. And that sounds like a kind of boring launch, but it's super important. Because what that gives you is a data feed and an API and a dashboard for every single contract that has been procured in every single cloud account in your entire organization in one place. And you can pull that data into your own BI tools if you want. That's a big deal. Suddenly you have data that shows you where everything is, who's buying it, what they're using for, what version it's on, what company it is, so you can do your due diligence. All of that data is now captured for your use, for governance, for all sorts of use cases. Most of you, when I speak with the customers here and I speak with chief procurement officers, I always ask them, how are you measured? And oftentimes the answer is, well, really cost savings. Let's be honest. End of the day, my job in procurement is, yes, to increase efficiency, yes, to decrease risk. But at the end of the day, what I'm really here for is to reduce costs. There's a lot of people these days in this current business climate. Well, again, if you have data about how much you're spending on those contracts, increasingly there's a lot of data out there in cloud marketplaces about how much you should be paying for those products. Negotiation as a service. There's a whole ecosystem of partners out there who provide data feeds about what you should be paying, what terms you should be getting, and especially what you're actually paying. If you have visibility into early renewals, for example, maybe you can take advantage of that early discount. You can do that now. It gives you, the procurement team, the possibility, the potential to be the center of the story when it comes to cost savings and the center of the story when it comes to risk, all through data. So ease of use, security, depth through data, all of these things you get by using cloud marketplaces. Cloud marketplaces also allow you to buy solutions, not just point products, and this is now moving into the future of where we're headed. Historically, cloud marketplaces have been providing software, and now you can buy both software, data, and services all through cloud marketplaces, but you can also buy solutions. And what I mean by solutions is multi-product or multi-part solutions. And you know this now, the buyer is changing. You have line of business buyers, you have industry buyers, and they're not just buying Trend Micro for security or CrowdStrike or Wiz. They want to buy a solution for automotive or a solution for manufacturing or a solution for ad tech. And these solutions have a mix of cloud services, third-party products, managed services, and increasingly what you're going to start to find in cloud marketplaces is packages, collections of multiple products across multiple product types that you, the procurement teams, can procure using one SKU eventually, or if not in multiple SKUs, as a packaged solution. So like the CEO says, you're not going to go buy the brakes, you want to buy a car. Solutions is the future of procurement, and automatically creating those solutions on the fly is the direction we're heading. So if you have a specific business unit, you used to have static templates of the solutions that they had to use. What if you could have, give me your use case, and I will automatically give you a list of products and product alternatives and auto-populate your RFP, and then give you the ability to procure all of that in one place, and I'll take care of the tax treatment, which is going to be different for services than it is from software, all in one place. That sounds pretty good, and that's the future, but the future is within months, not years. We're moving extremely fast, and the future is looking pretty good. So I hope in this brief time together, you get an idea about the immediate benefits that you can get from cloud marketplaces, but also that they're not just a transaction vehicle, they're not just a way to retire the commit that you made to your cloud provider. They're a way that you, ultimately the procurement teams, can put yourself at the center of the security, the governance, the risk story, the center of the future solution story. Really, we want the procurement team to change from that old persona of the office of no to become the office of yes. And in cloud marketplaces, when it comes to IT solution procurement, will help you get there. Thank you.